Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Sri Tips here, and I've got some karat gold that I've accumulated over the last couple of weeks. I've got some 14 karat scrap gold in here. We'll add that to our melt dish, and we've got 114.6 grams. I've recorded this on my sheet over here. I will zero the scale. I've got some 10 karat scrap gold. We'll add that to the melt dish. And we've got 65 grams of 10K. And I've recorded that on my sheet over here as well. Zero the scale. I've got some 18K gold in here. We'll add this to the melt dish. And you can see I've got 10.6 grams. I recorded that on my sheet as well. I've calculated that I need 206.4 grams of sterling silver. So what we'll do is I pre-measured a batch of sterling silver, scrap sterling silver jewelry that we'll use to inquart the gold. And you can see here we've got 204.4. That's a couple grams under the amount that I've calculated, but that's okay. This will do. So now we'll take this out and inquart this karat gold with this sterling silver out on the melt table.
Now we'll get the imported gold out of the container and into a beaker. We'll start pulling the silver and the base metals out with hot dilute nitric acid boils.
We've got the imported gold in a beaker. I'm adding some distilled water. And now we're going to follow that up with an equal amount of nitric acid. And what this will do is this will start pulling the silver and the base metals out of here for us and leave behind the pure gold. Now we'll set the beaker up on some heat to aid this reaction. And what I'll do is I'll do several nitric boils. This is boil number 1. And we'll pour the solution, which is going to contain lots of silver, into a silver jar over here and save it. This is 7.5 hours worth of time lapse. This is nitric boil number 1. You can tell when it's complete, when the fume production ceases in the beaker. What I'm going to do now is burn some more silver and add it to the silver jar so that we'll be able to consume any excess nitric that's in that liquid that we're pouring off. This will be nitric boil number 2 here. Boom. You'll see the fume production ceases. I'll pour that solution off into the silver jar. Nitric boil number 3 commencing. And when the fumes quit being produced, I swap it out and put fresh acid in there. Pour it off. Here's nitric boil number 5. You'll notice that the solution's beginning to lighten up in color. That's because the silver and the base metals are being pulled out of there. The gold is not very soluble in nitric acid, so it gets left behind. This is nitric boil number 6. I swapped out the burners there. The other one wasn't performing well. And here I added some more nitric and water and allowed this to boil down to a lower level to show another point here. I've had this on boiling now for about 7 hours total, and this is the 7th nitric acid boil. I put 6 in there, and I didn't pour 6 off. I put the 7th boil right in on top of it because I wanted to boil this for an extended period of time to demonstrate a principle here that you'll notice that our solution appears green, and that's because we're still pulling a little bit of copper out of this thing. Plus, you know, copper's blue. Plus, we probably put a little bit of gold in solution. Boiling nitric acid will put traces of gold in solution. I'm going to reach down in here and get a little bit of this solution on a piece of filter paper. I'm going to test this now with some stannous chloride testing solution. And there you can see we've got a little bit of gold in solution. And what this tells me is that boiling nitric acid will dissolve a little bit of the gold. I've given this 7 doses of nitric acid, boiling nitric acid, for about 7 hours, maybe 7.5 hours. What we're going to do now is pour this off into our silver jar over here. here's what our gold looks like now that we've got all the silver and base metals removed from it. Now what we'll do is add some distilled water to our gold. And we're going to boil the gold now in some plain distilled water. See if we can get a little bit more of the acid and the silver rinsed off of here. My silver jar in the back there is full. So what I've done is pulled up a second silver jar. I'm burning some more silver, and then we'll transfer some of that liquid out of that first silver jar into this empty silver jar. I've had this boiling in plain water now for about half an hour. What I'm going to do is pour it off into a silver jar here, because it might have a little bit of silver in it. It might have a little bit of nitric. I took the other two silver jars out of here because we're going to be working with some aqua regia now. This is just boiling distilled water that I boiled the gold in. I've got some hydrochloric acid, and what we're going to do is I'm going to add about 450 milliliters of the hydrochloric acid to the beaker with the gold in it. I've got some nitric acid here, about 45 milliliters. And what I'm going to do is try to get a time lapse of the entire dissolve sequence. So here we go. That took about half an hour, and I'm fairly certain that we've got just about all of that gold to go into solution. So now what we'll do, I'm going to pull this down off the heat and let this cool down a little bit. I'm going to put in a little bit of sulfuric acid to precipitate out any lead that may be present, so we can filter it out later on. I'm going to put a few ice cubes in here, cool it off, dilute it, and precipitate out any silver chloride that may be present. Let's get set up to do a filtering now. Got a Wattman number 3 slow flow filter in here. Here's all the stuff that was in the filter. And this is what our filtrate looks like. Still kind of cloudy. Since we have it in this state, it just makes sense to go ahead and pour it back through the same filter a second time, see if we can get a little bit of that cloudiness out of our solution. Yeah, I think you can see there's the original first pass, and here's the second pass. It has cleared it up a little bit for us, so it's worth doing a second pass through the same filter. All right, our solution looks much better now. What we'll do, just funnel out of the way. It's still going to have some gold in it because I didn't rinse it down into our main solution to prevent any contamination from coming out of that filter getting into our main solution. It's nice and clear now. We transfer it to this beaker. Go ahead and pull the rest of this solution down through this filter. Get this thing rinsed out properly. And what I'll do is I'll just add this little bit of rinse into my temporary waste container, and we'll recover the gold later. Here we go. Sodium metabisulfite. I'm going to start adding spoons of this, and we're going to precipitate out the pure gold for our first precipitation. There's our foam. I think we're good there. I think we've got it all dropped out of solution now. Give it a quick stir here. Oh yeah, it's real hot. I forgot to add ice. I usually add ice when I'm doing 2 or more troy ounces, so the solution's heated up. I've allowed the gold to settle for about an hour. Here it is. What we're going to do now is pour this waste off into my temporary waste container. Now what I'll do is add some hydrochloric acid. I'm going to put it up on the heat and let this boil in hydrochloric acid for a few minutes. This is my electrolytic silver cell. You can see the filter's all clogged up with slimes. If you look down into the cell here, you can see that we've got some crystal growth going on down in here. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to put a new anode filter in. If you look up here, you can see the current flow has dropped way off, and the silver cell slimes are interfering with the flow of silver ions through that filter. So we're going to replace the filter basket. I've got 2 electrolytic silver cells. I'm only running one of them right now because I'm getting low on impure silver. So I've only got one of them running. What we'll do now, look at the current flow. It's way down there. So what we'll do is I'll just take the anode bar out, set it aside. I've got a little container here. We'll reach in here, grab the old filter, set it off to the side. Here's my new filter, freshly prepared. We'll just drop that right on in, and then we'll give it a few minutes for the electrolyte to soak through the filter material and make contact with the impure silver. It's been about 2 minutes since I put that new filter in there. We got 0 on the current flow. It's because I don't have the anode bar on top of the impure silver yet. I'm going to do that right now. And if you look up here, now we're flowing 2.4 amps through the electrolytic silver cell. It's the current flow that does the work. Go ahead and stir this up while I'm in here. And then if you look over here, what I've got is the old anode filters that are full of silver cell slimes. And what I'll do is, in a future video, we'll go ahead and process these used anode filters because they're going to contain gold and platinum group metals, and we'll process them and recover the precious metals that they contain. I've had this thing boiling in hydrochloric acid now for about half an hour. This is hydrochloric acid in a squirt bottle that I'll use to rinse it out. Now what we want to do is pour off this waste solution. Notice it's got some color going on there. Probably a little bit of gold in solution. That's no problem. We'll recover that out of our waste container here. All right, we're going to dissolve the gold a second time. Add about 400 milliliters, 450 milliliters of hydrochloric acid. I will cover it up. Set it up here on the heat. Add a shot of sulfuric acid, just in case there's any lead still in there. Going to go with the same ratio as we did before. Measuring out about, that's about 50 milliliters of nitric acid. We're going to go ahead and pour that right on in. Dissolve this gold a second time. I've got the solution evaporated down to about 100 milliliters. So I've got about 3 troy ounces of gold in here, dissolved in 100 milliliters of solution. I've iced it down a little bit, a few ice cubes. I'm going to pour it through this filter paper. Shouldn't be much in here now. Looks like we still got a little bit of trash in there. Not nearly as much as the first time. Here's our solution. It's crystal clear. It's got some condensate on the outside of the flask. I'm going to add it to this beaker right here, full of ice. 3 troy ounces of gold in this solution. Here we go. Let's go for precipitation. Sodium metabisulfite. 3 troy ounces here. There we go. We got a little foam going on. I think that should just about do it right there. Let's give this a quick stir. Yeah, I'm fairly certain we've got all the gold precipitated. Now we'll just cover this up and let it settle. I've collected a lot of sterling silver jewelry here, and we're going to offer this for sale on my eBay site. All of this jewelry has been verified and tested to make sure that it is in fact sterling silver. So there's no costume stuff in here. There's some very nice pieces, and they were just too nice to tear them apart and refine the silver metal. So I set them aside. We're going to offer these for sale on my eBay site. As I said, this has all been tested and verified that it is in fact sterling silver. Sterling silver pieces. Some of them are marked 925 or sterling, and they're not really sterling at all. They're silver plated over a base metal, usually brass and I found that about 5% of sterling silver pieces that are marked either sterling or 925 turn out to not be sterling silver at all. I've had all of this through the ultrasonic cleaner, and then we steam cleaned everything and made sure all the dirt and junk is removed off of here. These pieces have been cleaned and sanitized with the ultrasonic and steam cleaner. These are all nice, top quality pieces of sterling silver jewelry. And these are all nice earrings. Everything is paired up and matched up. Some of the post earrings may not have the retainers slid down over the posts. Most of them do, but there's a couple in here that don't have the posts. Right there's an example of that. These pieces right here don't have the posts, but most are the retainers that slide down over the posts. But most of these pieces do have the posts. This is all nice pieces of sterling silver jewelry that can be resold. Again, everything has been tested and verified. And what I did is, as I was going through this material, I'd set these nicer pieces aside and save them so that we can offer these for sale on my eBay site. And so that's what we're going to do with these pieces. These are real diamonds, and this piece right here, I've tested those and verified that they're real diamonds. I think those are blue sapphires in that pendant right there. All nice stuff. Tested and verified. Alright, let's put a container up here. Gonna tear the scale to 0. Now we're gonna go ahead and put all this jewelry in here and get a weight on all of it. Okay, it looks like we've got 1,839 grams of high quality sterling silver jewelry. I've allowed the gold to settle completely. Notice that the solution on top of the gold is crystal clear and colorless. I'm going to pour this waste solution off now. Here's a look at the gold. Nice plug of pure gold down in the bottom of our beaker. Alright, now we're to make this easier to handle, I'm going to transfer the gold into this larger beaker, make it easier to clean off. Now I'm adding some more hydrochloric acid. And what we're going to do is dissolve this a third time. Every time we dissolve and reprecipitate the gold, we get cleaner and cleaner. So we're going to go for a third dissolve and precipitation. I've got our gold on a stir plate. I've got it heating up in hydrochloric acid. I'm going to drop in a stir bar, but the gold is so dense and heavy that it's not going to, the stir bar is not going to be able to move that gold. Up here, I've got an addition funnel set up with about half a liter of 29% hydrogen peroxide. So what we're going to do is start dripping the hydrogen peroxide down into our beaker with our gold and hydrochloric acid mixture. And we're going to use hydrogen peroxide this time to dissolve our gold. There we go. Just drop that in nice and slow and dissolve the gold a third time using hydrochloric acid and hydrogen peroxide. This 29% hydrogen peroxide does an excellent job of dissolving the gold, and it took much less hydrogen peroxide than I anticipated. I mean, I had a half a liter in that funnel up there above, and I only used about 200 milliliters, if that, to get all the gold to go into solution. And I think the key here is when using hydrogen peroxide to dissolve the gold, there's hydrochloric acid in there also. We're using hydrochloric acid and hydrogen peroxide. But I think the key is to add a lot of heat. Okay, it's complete, so now we're going to pull it down off the heat and let it cool down. Stir bar out of there. I've allowed that gold to cool down just a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of sulfuric acid in there just to take care of any lead that may still be present. Let me add a few ice cubes, cool this down a little bit. And the nice thing about using peroxide is we don't have any nitric acid to deal with in here. I've got a Wattman number 3 slow flow filter in here. What we're going to do is go ahead and filter our solution now. That's pulling through the filter very quickly. I don't see any trash being collected in the filter at all. The solution looks perfect. Let me get this out of the way. See down in the filter down there that it's nice and clean. What we'll do is just set this out of the way and get set up to do precipitation. I've got my gas generator flask. It's got about a half pound, 3/4 of a pound of sodium metabisulfite in it. I'm going to bubble it through a sulfuric acid bubbling flask, and then the gas will come out to this delivery tube into this large 5-liter beaker. Let's go ahead and put our acid. This is a vented acid addition funnel. Put that on there. Let's start a little bit of acid flow here, just a little bit. Just get some drips going down into that SMB that's in our gas generator flask. You can see it's starting to make SO2 gas. We're bubbling it through our sulfuric acid bubbling flask. So we got the gas generator going. Now we're going to pour. Here's our gold solution. Crystal clear. Triple refined. So we're going to add this to our flask now, or our beaker. This is going to be 3 troy ounces of gold that we're going to try to precipitate out of this solution with SO2 gas. I'm adding some distilled water to dilute our gold chloride solution down. 3 troy ounces is quite a bit. I'm going to take it up to the 3,500 milliliter level. Okay, everything's rolling. I'm dripping sulfuric acid down into the SMB. We got a gas flow established. Now what we'll do is insert our delivery tube, see if we can precipitate out pure gold from this solution. This ought to be interesting. Let's see, what time is it? We just started the gas flow. It's about 5 minutes to 6. I can see some gold starting to form on the surface in here. Just a little bit. Let's see if we can adjust this hose a little bit. I'm going to increase the gas flow. I'm going to bump up the acid flow down into the gas generator just a little bit. There we go. gas flow going on. Yeah, I can see a few crumbs of gold starting to appear in the solution. Where are we at? We're about 3 minutes into this. I've never tried this much that I can remember. Starting to see a little bit of a color change. SO2 gas produces the cleanest reaction when we bubble the gas through it, rather than throwing the salt directly into the beaker. This makes a much cleaner precipitation. Getting ready to flash over right here. There it goes. There it goes. It's not heating up. Slow the gas generator down a little bit. That looks like chocolate milk. I'm gonna reach in here, get a little bit of the solution on a piece of filter paper. Let's see if we've got all the gold precipitated out. Should be. Yep. All the gold has been precipitated. Let's see, how long did that take? 5 minutes. It's 6 o'clock straight up right now. We started at 5 minutes to 6. So it took about 5 minutes to do the precipitation of about 3 troy ounces of pure gold. Reach back here and shut the acid flow off. Get our delivery tube out of here. Now we'll just let this settle out and we'll collect our gold. I've allowed the gold to settle completely. Here's our pure gold down in the bottom of this beaker. It looks spectacular. This is my temporary waste container. It's got a good bit of gold in it. Accumulated where I've poured off these waste solutions. We'll get that out of there one of these days. Then refine it up and make a bar and offer it for sale. I'm just gonna pour this off now. This waste solution, you can see it's crystal clear. Pour it off into this beaker. Alrighty, here's a look at the gold down inside the beaker. Okay, now we're gonna transfer this gold into a smaller beaker. Nice thing about this gas precipitation is that there's no salt in here, no adulterants. We use the gas to do the precipitation, so all we're going to have is high purity gold in here. No need to do a bunch of rinses to rinse chemicals off, because there's no chemicals in here to be rinsed off. So what we're going to do is transfer this gold into a smaller beaker. There we go. Pour this off. Try to chop this up a little bit. Adding some distilled water. All right, let's pour that off. Add some distilled water. Now we're going to put it up here on some heat and boil it in some plain distilled water. I've been boiling this over and over in distilled water, pouring it off and adding new water. Gold looks excellent. All we should have in there now is pure gold and distilled water. So what I'm going to do now is down here I have a container. I've got the weight of it written on the side. I'm going to add the gold to this container. All right, here's our pure gold powder. Try to get it flattened out a little bit. I'll set it up here on the heat now and let it slowly evaporate. Got this dried off completely. Now what we'll do is take it down off the heat and let it cool down a little bit. This is cooled off now. Look at that beautiful pure gold sponge, triple refined to ultra high purity. And what we'll do with this now, this is metallic gold in a powder form. And what we'll do now is let's weigh this up. We were expecting 101.9 grams. Let's see what we got on this now. Here's the weight of the dish, 399.7. So we've got 495.8 minus 399.7 equals, we got 96.1 grams. about 5 grams shy based on the estimated yield. That happens sometimes. But what we'll do now is we'll take this and we'll offer this for sale on my eBay site by the gram. And then we have also the silver jewelry that's been cleaned and sanitized, and we'll offer that for sale on my eBay site as well. Everything will come individually wrapped in plastic bags, and it'll ship in a flat rate medium size USPS box. 1,839 grams of high quality sterling silver jewelry. Okay, this will conclude the video. Thank you for watching.